A very good morning. It's just past 9 this Wednesday morning and we're back again with breakfast news. I'm Rukma and over the next 1 hour I'll be taking you across all the stories making headlines across India and the world as the fight against COVID-19 intensifies. Help pours in for India. Meanwhile, reports are coming in of an earthquake from Assam. Tremors felt across Guwahati. The epicenter is Tejpur, and tremors also felt in a few other states in the northeast as well. All this and more in the next 1 hour, but first, here are the headlines. Prime Minister holds high-level meeting to review COVID situation in the country. PM directs officials to ensure rapid upgradation of health infrastructure and to work closely with state governments to start PSA oxygen plants at the earliest. US President Joe Biden says United States will send actual mechanical parts required for vaccine production to India. US to also send more help including remdesivir and other drugs. Biden says discussed about sending vaccines with Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks to QATAR Amir. Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani thanks Amir for solidarity and offer of support in fight against COVID-19. COVID vaccination in the country reaches 14.77 crore doses. Centre says more than 15 crore doses of vaccine given free of cost to states and union territories so far. More than 80 lakh doses will be given in the next 3 days. Registration for vaccination to be open from today for all above 18 years of age. Efforts to improve oxygen availability continue in full swing. IAF airlifts oxygen containers from Dubai, Singapore and Bangkok. Air India to fly home with 10,636 oxygen concentrators from across the globe by this week. More states impose stricter measures to control the spread of COVID-19. Prohibitory orders imposed in Karnataka till the 6th of May. Section 144 in Bengaluru, Corona curfew imposed in parts of Haridwar till the 3rd of May. International news, United States eases mask guidelines, citing stunning progress in the fight against coronavirus. Fully vaccinated people now allowed outdoors with no masks when not in a large crowd. And in sports, first leg of first semi-final of UEFA Champions League between Real Madrid and Chelsea ends in draw with both sides scoring 1 goal each. Paris Saint-Germain to take on Manchester City in second semi-final tomorrow. First up, here are the top national news stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a meeting with top officials to review the COVID-19 situation in the country. He got an overview on the situation in the country relating to oxygen availability, medicines and health infrastructure from 3 empowered groups. Production of liquid medical oxygen in the country has increased from 5,700 metric tons per day in August 2020 to the present 8,922 metric tons. The domestic production is expected to cross 9,250 metric tons per day by the end of April 2021. Prime Minister urged officials to work closely with state governments to start the PSA oxygen plants at the earliest. He was also briefed about the functioning of the Oxygen Express railway service as well as the domestic sorties and international sorties undertaken by IAF to transport oxygen tankers. The empowered group working on medical infrastructure and COVID management briefed the PM on efforts being undertaken to ramp up availability of beds and ICUs. They informed the Prime Minister on efforts being taken to break the chain of transmission. The Prime Minister stressed on the need to ensure that specific guidelines and strategies evolved regarding COVID management need to be properly implemented by the relevant agencies in the states. The empowered group working on communication informed the PM on efforts being undertaken to improve awareness among people on COVID-related behavior. And joining us now is our correspondent Arun Sharma with more details and more inputs on this story. Arun, even as the country, even as India intensifies efforts, states and the centre pitching in on all fronts, particularly as far as the supply of oxygen is concerned. Give us an insight into the overall situation and the efforts being taken, which the Prime Minister reviewed yesterday.
Well, that's right, Rukma. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday chaired a high-level meeting, and the top officials primarily, gave inputs to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, there are some of the big highlights as far as that meeting is concerned. Number one, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged all the officials that the PSA oxygen plants primarily can be started as soon as possible. We know this fact that from the PM CARES Fund, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has approved funds for setting up of more than 550 PSA oxygen plants all across the country. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged all the officials to fast track this mechanism so that as soon as possible, these oxygen plants can be started. That's number one. Number two, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also urged all the officials to upgrade the healthcare infrastructure as soon as possible. That means ventilator beds, oxygen beds primarily. These can be set up as soon as possible on a war footing. And of course, that can be set up not only in big cities, but wherever there is huge demand. That means in tier 2 towns, tier 3 towns. Over there, these bedding capacities should be upgraded as soon as possible. Third, of course, the empowered group, the officials, the empowered group, which has been constituted for ensuring the oxygen supply in our country. It also has given input to Prime Minister Narendra Modi that various sorties is being made by the Indian Air Force, which is primarily transporting oxygen-related infrastructure, oxygen-related equipment from various other countries to India. Now, we know this fact that yesterday only Civil Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri has also made an announcement that Air India will be transporting more than 10,000 oxygen concentrators from various other countries in 1 week's time. And the important part is that as of now, the oxygen capacity or the oxygen production capacity of India is approximately 8,900 metric tons. Now, this will be, increased by more than 1,000 metric ton in next 2 to 3 days. That means by the end of this month, the capacity will be more than 9,200 metric ton on daily basis. So yes, government is ensuring that how can oxygen supplies in our country can be increased and availability and the quota primarily for the states has also been increased. But the big takeaway is that the registration for the vaccination drive for all those who are above the age of 18, that starts from 4 p.m. today, and this is going to be a game changer. This is going to play an important role as far as our fight against COVID-19 is concerned.
Right, Arun, well, we'll have to leave it at that for now. Thank you very much for joining us. US President Joe Biden on Tuesday said that the United States will send actual mechanical parts required for building machinery for the production of the vaccine Covishield. The statement comes after Prime Minister Modi spoke to President Biden on Monday night, India time. Biden also said that they will be sending a whole series of helping measures immediately. That includes remdesivir and other drugs to fight the virus.
We are sending immediately a whole series of help that he needs, including providing for those remdesivir and other drugs that are able to deal with this and prevent, in some cases, but help recovery. Secondly, we are sending the actual mechanical parts that are needed for the machinery they have to build a vaccine, and that's being done as well. We're also I've discussed with him when we'll be able to send actual vaccines to India, which will be my intention to do.
Amid the ongoing fight against COVID-19 in India, the global community has lent us a helping hand. The first batch of medical supplies from the UK landed in New Delhi on Monday. In all, the UK will send 9 airline container loads of supplies, including about 500 oxygen concentrators, 120 non-invasive ventilators and 20 manual ventilators. Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, said that Canada will contribute $10 million to the Indian Red Cross through Red Cross Canada. In a tweet, he said, "Right now, the people of India are facing a tragic situation. To help with everything from ambulance services to buying personal protective equipment, we are contributing $10 million to Indian Red Cross through Red Cross Canada. We stand ready to donate extra medical supplies too." And even as France pledged to ship oxygen generators and ventilators, the French embassy in New Delhi said the equipment is intended not only to address the emergency, but also significantly boost the capability of hospitals in India to treat the sick. President Emmanuel Macron of France shared a message of solidarity in Hindi on Facebook. And Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison too pledged support to India.
What Australia will do is we'll provide an initial package, and I stress this is an initial package. There will be more to follow, of support and to deliver this as soon as possible. So 500 non-invasive ventilators, 1 million surgical masks, 500,000 P2 and N95 masks, 100,000 surgical gowns, 100,000 goggles, 100,000 pairs of gloves and 20,000 face shields. We will also agree to commence procurement of 100 oxygen concentrators along with tanks and consumables. DFAT will manage the movement of this equipment over the course of the next week.
And the Prime Minister had a conversation with the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, yesterday. The Prime Minister thanked the Qatar Amir for the solidarity and offer of support in India's fight against COVID-19. The PM wrote on Twitter, I quote, "Had a good conversation with His Highness Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Emir of Qatar. I thanked His Highness for the solidarity and offer of support in India's fight against COVID-19. I also conveyed our gratitude for the care being provided to the Indian community in Qatar." And joining us now is our correspondent Abhishek Jha to tell us more about the international support that's pouring in for India. Clearly, Abhishek, a reciprocal gesture from every country that has advanced medical supplies, that has an advanced medical infrastructure from across the world. Take us through the details.
Of course, Rukma, and this point of time when India is actually dealing with this unprecedented type of crisis in this COVID pandemic, the world has extended a helping hand, and we are seeing resources, equipment, therapeutics, drugs, and every single thing that India is needing in this hour of crisis being extended to India, being flown into India. In the last 2 days, we have seen hundreds of concentrators and ventilators, oxygen, and some, special gear that is used by the frontline workers and health workers to treat the COVID patients, like PPE kit, masks, face shields, and goggles and gloves and everything being supplied to India on a very urgent basis by so many countries. We are also seeing, messages of solidarity from the highest offices in from so many countries. Today morning also we saw a tweet by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau expressing solidarity with India, has also extended some financial help through the Red Cross Canada to Indian Red Cross. There are also mobilization of resources from individual people from across the globe. We have also seen some Australian cricketer contributing to PM Cares Fund. Matt Cummins especially, he has committed some fund to the Prime Minister's Care Fund. Australian cricketer Brett Lee has also contributed one crypto, which is almost like 40 lakh rupees to an organization which will be supplying oxygen to India. So individuals also are coming forward to help India in this hour of crisis. NGOs and global organizations and welfare organizations, they have also tried to pitch in resources and pool in all the available and the facility that can be extended to strengthen the currently overburdened healthcare system, healthcare infrastructure in India.
Right. Well, you keep your eyes on that story, Abhishek. We'll be back with you throughout the day for more. Meanwhile, a liberalized and accelerated phase 3 strategy of COVID-19 vaccination will be implemented in a few days from now, from the 1st of May. In its phase 3, the national vaccine strategy aims at liberalized vaccine pricing and scaling up of vaccine coverage. The registration for the next phase of the COVID-19 vaccination drive for citizens above 18 years of age will start from 4 p.m. today. Eligible citizens will be able to book their slots online via government's CoWIN portal or the Arogya Setu app that was launched last year. Until now, only people above 45 years of age, healthcare and frontline workers were allowed to take the vaccine. However, from the 1st of May onwards, all adult citizens will be able to get vaccinated. The centre has rejected certain media reports, quoting some government officials from Maharashtra that vaccines in the state are finished, thereby adversely impacting the vaccination drive in the state. Clarifying the matter, the centre has said that the total COVID vaccine doses received by Maharashtra as on 27th April 2021 at 8 a.m. are 1,58,62,470. Of this total consumption, including wastage, 0.22% was 1,49,39,410. The balance of 9,23,000 and 60 doses is still available with the state for administration of vaccine doses to the eligible population groups. Furthermore, 3 lakh doses of COVID vaccine are in the pipeline for delivery in the next 3 days. The centre further said that the government has so far provided more than 15 crore vaccine doses to states and union territories free of cost. Of this, the total consumption including wastage is 14 crore 64 lakh 78,983 doses. More than 1 crore doses are still available with states and union territories to be administered. More than 80 lakh doses will be received in addition by the states and union territories in the next 3 days. The union government imported 20 cryogenic tankers of 10 metric tons and 20 metric tons capacity and allocated them to states to address the shortage of oxygen tankers in the country. That and other updates from the states in our next report. Take a look.
It remains top priority for both the union government and the state governments. Oxygen express services continue in full speed. A special train for Madhya Pradesh loaded with medical oxygen left from Bokaro.
आज भी ऑक्सीजन एक्सप्रेस ट्रेन आ रही है जिसमें 6 टैंकर लद के आ रहे हैं.
Another oxygen express train carrying oxygen tankers crossed more than 1200 kilometers from Raigad to New Delhi. It arrived early on Tuesday morning. The train pulled into the Delhi Cant railway station with the tankers later dispatched to hospitals in the capital facing oxygen shortages. A C-17 aircraft of IAF airlifted 6 empty cryogenic oxygen containers from Dubai on Monday and landed at Panagarh in West Bengal the same day. Another C-17 aircraft of IAF airlifted 4 empty containers from Bangkok and landed at Panagarh on Tuesday early morning. Within India, IAF airlifted 1 cryogenic oxygen container from Baroda to Ranchi, 2 containers from Pune to Jamnagar, 2 containers from Bhopal to Jamnagar, 3 containers from Jaipur to Jamnagar, 3 from Indore and Bhopal to Jamnagar, and 1 cryogenic oxygen container from Hindon to Panagarh on Monday. Meanwhile, Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan visited the Bina refinery and met officials to review the oxygen plant and hospital facilities there. A 1,000-bedded temporary hospital has been set up near the plant site in Sagar district. Experts from several states are working together to make the 1,000-bed hospital functional. Oxygen lines are being laid. Road connectivity is also being ensured. Shivraj Singh Chauhan said that oxygen plants are being set up in all districts on a war footing.
बीना रिफाइनरी के पास जो ऑक्सीजन है उस ऑक्सीजन पर आधारित एक कोविड का अस्पताल रिफाइनरी के पास बनाने का फैसला सरकार ने किया है.
In Rajasthan, Health Minister Raghu Sharma also reviewed oxygen availability in the state. He said 3 months ago, the availability of oxygen in the state was about 6,500 cylinders per day. This has now increased to 31,425 cylinders per day. Oxygen tankers from Jamnagar, Gujarat have been airlifted. Besides, a new plant has been installed in Alwar district with a capacity of 1,000 cylinders per day. By next week, a unit with a capacity of 1,200 cylinders per day is being started by Hindustan Zinc Limited in Dariba, Rajsamand. GPS systems have been installed in oxygen tankers that are being monitored from the state control room. Cylinders used for industrial purposes have been acquired and made available for medical purposes. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has said that the state government is going to set up 44 oxygen plants in Delhi within the next 1 month. 8 of these are being installed by Centre.
केंद्र सरकार भी इंपोर्ट कर रही है कई सारे टैंकर्स. दिल्ली के लिए 5 अलग से टैंकर केंद्र सरकार ने हमें दिए हैं. उसके लिए भी मैं केंद्र सरकार का शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूं.
In Nagpur, Maharashtra, the demand for oxygen stands at 200 metric tons. The current supply is 140 metric tons. 20,000 cylinders are available in the city. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari said that the shortfall was largely because of transportation loopholes.
हम भिलाई से ऑक्सीजन जो लाते थे उसके ट्रांसपोर्ट करने में देरी हुई. उसमें ध्यान में आया कि कल रात को मैंने जिलाधिकारी के साथ इसमें काम करने सभी लोगों की समिति की और अब ये ट्रांसपोर्ट का पूरा जो मॉनिटरिंग है वो प्यारे खान जी के कंपनी को दिया है. यहाँ आने के बाद गाड़ी को 3-3, 4-4 घंटे समय नहीं लगना चाहिए. तुरंत उसने ऑक्सीजन निकालकर वापस भिलाई जाना चाहिए.
Oxygen supply to Uttar Pradesh is also being augmented. 64 tankers have been deployed to transport medical oxygen in the state. In addition, 20 tankers are supplying directly to hospitals across various districts. 8 new tankers have also been received from the union government. Apart from this, oxygen is being supplied from Jamshedpur. Oxygen audits are also being carried out. 32 oxygen plants are already functional in various medical institutions of the state. 39 new plants are now being set up at several hospitals. In Bhubaneswar too, all efforts are being made to increase bottling of oxygen as well as ensuring timely supply to those in need. The state government has increased the number of licenses for production and bottling of medical oxygen. Supplies from the city are being sent all across the state. Bureau Report, DD India.
And joining us now is our correspondent Mridu Smita from Guwahati. We are also joined by Shishir from Mumbai, but we'll be going across to Shishir a bit later. First of all, coming to you, Mridu Smita, give us first and foremost an overview of the COVID situation in Guwahati. How is the state government dealing with the situation? But first of all, are there any particular hotspots where there are maximum cases? What is the total number of cases? Where does the caseload stand as of now?
Especially if we talk about the hotspots, what you asked, basically the hotspot is mainly in Guwahati because people from other states are coming back to the state, and as the tests are going in the Guwahati airport as well as the railway station, so number of cases have been detected then. As since yesterday, there were from Kamrup Metro itself, like 1,113 new cases were detected. And other than that, the other districts which are there, it's like 300 or about 100 number of cases usually are coming up in a day. So in that case, we can say that Guwahati, the Kamrup Metro is the hotspot currently, and because of which the state government is taking every possible step so that they can, curtail the numbers and at least the spread doesn't there. Because of which the State Disaster Management Authority, they have imposed a curfew since yesterday night for 5 days till 1st of May. Although there has been the order issued that from 6 in the evening, the marketplaces, malls, restaurants, everything will be closed. And as another order was also issued by the district collector of Kamrup Metro that the schools, colleges and universities will be shut down because the number of cases have crossed 1,000 mark. And if I talk about the other districts of Assam, there also the numbers, if they cross 300, and almost all all the districts almost currently the numbers have increased, because of which mostly the schools from 6th to 8th standard are closed, and because the state authorities are looking upon the matter, the number of the beds of ICUs of the hospitals, of various hospitals in the state, are they are trying to increase as number of cases are increasing day by day. And the supply of oxygen, if we talk about, yesterday Himanta Biswa Sharma, the health minister, he has signed 3 MOUs with 3 private companies here, one with Bongaigaon, one with a company that is it is a Assam-based company, but it is actually the plant is in Dimapur in Nagaland, and another one at Silapathar. And these 3 MOUs were signed yesterday evening. And so the minister have confirmed that after the signing of the MOUs, the capacity the state will have for oxygen will be more than 66 metric ton per day. And it is a huge development from the state if there is any crisis of oxygen. And he have also assured that there is no such thing like there will be a lacking of oxygen supply, as he have also mentioned that another new plant in Bhutan near to Assam border is also being looked upon, and the construction have already started, and engineers and officials and laborers from Assam have already reached that particular site, and the plant might come up by 30 days from now. And so we can expect that from there also 40 metric ton of oxygen supply will be imported to Assam through the Bhutan plant. And so we will have enough sufficient capacity of liquid oxygen for the state to fight the COVID war, actually. One month.
Right, Smita. Well, stay with us. We also have with us our correspondent from Mumbai, Shishir Shelar, who's to tell us more about the COVID situation from across Maharashtra. Shishir, if you can hear me.
Well, absolutely, Rukma.
Right. Well, when we talk about Mumbai, let's start off with Mumbai. There is some positive news coming in. We believe that the numbers have dropped considerably. What are we looking at here? Is it an impact of the measures, that were taken by the state on a war footing in the past few days?
Well, Rukma, it's quite premature to say that numbers are dropping at this point in time, because day before yesterday, Maharashtra registered the number almost 48,000. But if you look at yesterday's numbers, it has gone to almost 63,000. But of course, there's silver lining on it, because we have seen here that the recovered patient has increased compared to the patients which have contracted with the COVID. Yesterday, 66,000 patients were registered in Maharashtra, and nearly 67,000 people were recovered. So that is a good sign that probably we are getting from Maharashtra here, and that's the reason the recovery rate has also increased. It has gone to almost 83% now. Well, but the main thing here is that worrying factor is, of course, the death numbers that we are registering every day, almost 400 to 500 deaths every day. Sometimes it has got to almost 700. And that's the reason these numbers need to be tackled quite carefully. Well, state government is working on war footing at different levels here. But the most important thing is to save the lives who are there in the hospital, especially the critical patients who have been admitted in the hospital here. And that's the reason the oxygen supply needs to be put in proper place. The availability of remdesivir injection is also need to be taken care of. Ventilators need to be given to them. And at the same time, the vaccination drive to be carried out in a full swing. As far as the vaccination drive is concerned, Rukma, let me tell you that yesterday Maharashtra administered more than 5 lakh doses in a single day. And that's a record so far in the country and Maharashtra as well. And the government is of the view that probably if they get a proper supply of the vaccination, then in a day, Maharashtra can administer 8 lakh doses. That's what the state health minister said just a couple of days back here. Well, now talking about the critical situation, as I was telling you about the oxygen supply and remdesivir, the state government have approached center earlier also, and the center have already increased the quota to the state. For example, as far as the remdesivir injection is concerned, each day, the state used to get almost 25,000 injections from the center, which has now increased to 40,000. But in spite of that, the numbers are increasing in Maharashtra, and that's the reason the demand of remdesivir injection is quite high at this point in time. the state government is saying that they required almost 40 or almost 70 to 80 lakh injections per day is what the demand is. On the other hand, as far as the oxygen is concerned, we've also seen here that the state government have given support to increase the oxygen supply to the state. We have also seen that Oxygen Express will also run in Maharashtra. But in spite of that, there has been huge demand in Maharashtra. Nearly 1,600 metric tons each day oxygen Maharashtra required for the patients here. And keeping this thing in mind, the state government have already issued a global tender which includes 5 important things, out of which it includes nearly 40,000 oxygen concentrators. It also includes 25,000 metric tons of liquid oxygen. It has also included almost 10 lakh vials of remdesivir injection. So these are important aspects that included in this entire global tendering here. There has been companies across the different globe that are interested for this particular tender that the state government has issued. A 3-day window has been given by the state government for the companies to fill this tender here. So obviously, on one hand, a government is tackling with this issue. They're getting support from the state, but at the same time, they have to increase their capacity. And that's the reason a global tender has been issued by the state government. Well, as far as vaccination is concerned, let me tell you, Rukma, that the vaccination drive is going to start from 1st May between the age group of 18 to 44 here. But it seems that state government at this point in time, is looking quite skeptical, because we have seen that health minister yesterday said that to carry out this drive, basically they need more supply of vaccination. Currently, they've got the supply of vaccination which has been administered between the age group of 45 and above. And that's the reason we have seen here that there are a lot of patients having queued up outside the vaccination center. But due to the limited stock of vaccines, probably the state government is saying that it's quite difficult for them to provide them all. And that's the reason the state government have wrote a letter to major oxygen manufacturer, for example, the Serum Institute from Pune and the Bharat Biotech, in which the state government have requested them if they could provide a vaccine to Maharashtra, because Maharashtra required nearly 12 crore of vaccine doses. And that's what they're demanding from these manufacturers here. And that's the reason a letter has been sent to them, asking them that what could be their final price. You also know that both the institutes have already given their prices, the pricing for the vaccination for the states also. But the states want that price to be reduced further so that they can buy the stock from these two companies. At the same time, they've also asked whether they'll be able to provide this vaccine in a given time frame, because state government have said that to carry out the vaccination drive in a full swing and to complete as soon as possible, they need a good amount of vaccines in the stock. And that's the reason a letter has been sent to both the manufacturers, and the state government is still awaiting the reply from these manufacturers. So as far as vaccination drive is concerned, the state government is working on war footing, but the number needs to be decreased here. Although in a couple of days here, especially from Mumbai, if you see, the number has reduced. Mumbai particularly used to register almost 10,000 cases a day. But now, since last couple of days, we have seen here that number has reduced drastically, almost half of what we have seen since last few days. So that's a good aspect for Mumbai as well. But as far as entire Maharashtra numbers are concerned, the cases are rising from the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, and that needs to be tackled quite carefully.
Right. A slight silver lining, as you said earlier, Shishir, although we cannot conclude anything yet, the numbers have to be observed. Meanwhile, the vaccination drive across Maharashtra and Mumbai in particular progressing on a war footing, vaccines being given out and administered, and people there too very enthusiastically, responding to the call for vaccination. Well, moving on now to other news stories. An earthquake with a magnitude of 6.4 on the Richter scale hit Sonitpur, Assam today at 7:51 a.m. 4.3 and 4.4 aftershocks were felt right after the main earthquake. However, no loss of life or property has been reported so far. Chief Minister Sarbananda Sonowal said that he was praying for the well-being of all and urged everyone to stay alert. He also said that he is taking updates from all districts. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi spoke to Chief Minister Sarbananda Sonowal regarding the earthquake that jolted Assam this morning. In a tweet, the PM said, spoke to Assam CM Shri Sarbanand Sonowal ji regarding the earthquake in parts of the state, assured all possible help from the centre. I pray for the well-being of the people of Assam. The Assam Chief Minister too thanked Prime Minister Modi for his assurance of support. In his tweet, he said, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has taken stock of the damage due to the earthquake over phone with me and has assured all support to Assam. Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister Sir. And we go across once again to Mridusmita for more details on the earthquake. Mridusmita, we believe that, well, despite the magnitude above 6 on the Richter scale, the damage as of now, as far as we know, is minimal, no loss of life or property. What more details can you give us? Which were the areas most affected? Well, we're trying to get in touch with our correspondent, Mridusmita. Mridusmita, there seems to be some problem with the audio there. Could you repeat your answer from the beginning for our viewers? You were telling us about the magnitude of the quake, the impact it has had, and the areas most affected.
Yes, I earlier said actually the epicenter was Sonitpur, and it is almost 96 kilometers away from Guwahati city. Even in Guwahati, the jolt was very massive. As I live in Guwahati, so here also, while I was at my house, it's a RCC building where it was a massive shaking of the building, and because of which I'm outside my house and I'm reporting from outside. And people were on the roads of the by-lanes outside their fear of the earthquake, and it was not only once but almost 4 times the jolt was felt, and it was quite massive. And definitely there is so far there is no casualties that have been reported. However, a few hotels, like I can also mention like a very this private hotel like Taj Vivanta, where very bad cracks were being seen, and a few apartments where there was the ceilings had come out, or though the people weren't hurt in that various incidents. And big towers like one at Ganeshpuri at BK Tower, the huge crack was seen, and another in Guwahati itself, Paltan Bazaar, where it is a very busy market area where many high rises are there. There also we could see some cracks out there. And earlier the DC of Sonitpur have also said that the Tezpur University, where a few cracks were seen and few glasses were broken. However, no major casualty was reported so far. And neighboring states like Meghalaya and Nagaland, that particularly Kohima, the jolts were felt because it was a high, massive Richter scale, the epicenter was. And Arunachal, where the Sonitpur is a border line with Arunachal Pradesh. Even in Arunachal Pradesh, the jolt was felt because it was more than 6.4. Though from those states also no casualties were reported so far, Rukma.
Right. Well, Mridusmita, thank you very much for joining us there. And well, continuing with our conversation, Mridusmita, which when we talk about no reports of other casualties, give us a sense of what the seismology department is saying about the extent of the quake. When we talk about adjoining areas of Assam. See,
as the epicenter was Sonitpur, there is a major, place like Dhekiajuli at Sonitpur and Dhekiajuli. In between, there's a place where actually the epicenter was. In fact, almost 2-3 days back, another jolt was felt in that particular area. It's called Rangapara, although it was not of such a massive scale. So the people out there were a little bit of alert before that. Since this earthquake has already was there, they felt the jolt. So they were a bit alert, because of which So as for today, as they felt this jolt out there, they were a little alert from earlier itself. So I suppose because of which that casualties were not reported, aren't there so far. And as people were alert, they were seen outside the road of the house, outside their houses, and they were like taking,
right, Mridusmita, we'll be coming back to you. Right now, let's here's what Home Minister Amit Shah has tweeted. In his tweet, he says, have spoken to the Chief Minister of Assam, Shri Sarbananda Sonowal ji, to assess the condition in different parts of the state after the earthquake. The central government stands firmly with our sisters and brothers of Assam, praying for everyone's safety and well-being. Well, going back to Mridusmita, well, clearly the concern is for the safety of all the people in the area of the earthquake, in the surrounding of the earthquake. As of now, we believe that there are no reports of any casualties. Is that correct? So can it be confirmed that there has been no loss of life or property?
It is a little early because the reports are still coming, and as the state disaster management have also they are also looking after it because in that particular hour, it was early morning hour 7:55, as you have mentioned. So during that time, the officials usually aren't available. So because as the time goes, there might be some reports, but so far, whatever we have collected as through sources, no casualties have been reported, and only few cracks are being seen in various buildings. But there are old buildings as well in those areas where there might be some, the buildings might have collapsed or something. But so far, there is no confirmed report that such things might have occurred so far.
Right. All we know now is that it was a massive jolt. Thank you very much, Mridusmita, for joining us there and for your inputs. Meanwhile, in Maharashtra, at least 4 people lost their lives as a fire broke out in a hospital in Mumbai. The state government has announced compensation of 5 lakh rupees to the families of the deceased and 1 lakh to those seriously injured. The cause of the fire is yet to be ascertained. Noted Odia and English writer Manoj Das passed away at the age of 87 in Puducherry. Das was associated with the Sri Aurobindo Ashram and was hospitalized for nearly a year at the ashram's nursing home with terminal cancer. He was being conferred the Padma Bhushan last year for his contribution in the field of literature and education, and had earlier been conferred the Padma Shri in 2001. Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted to express grief over his demise, said, Shri Manoj Das distinguished himself as a noted educationist, popular columnist and prolific writer. He made rich contributions to English and Oriya literature and was a leading exponent of Sri Aurobindo's philosophy. Pained by his demise, condolences to his family. Om Shanti. And time now to move on to our next section across the globe, in which we bring you all the latest, for example, the COVID situation as countries across the world fight COVID, some country relief news coming in from other quarters. So let's begin. US health regulators have announced that fully vaccinated citizens can safely engage in outdoor activities like walking and hiking without wearing masks, but should continue to use face coverings in public spaces where they are required. The US President sustained the announcement of CDC on allowing fully vaccinated people to safely engage in outdoor activities in small gatherings without wearing a mask. The US President lauded the advice as a direct result of steps the country had taken to fight coronavirus.
Earlier today, the CDC made an important announcement. Starting today, if you're fully vaccinated and you're outdoors, you need, and not in a big crowd, you no longer need to wear a mask. I want to be absolutely clear. If you're in a crowd, like a stadium or at a conference or a concert, you still need to wear a mask, even if you're outside.
Portugal President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa said in a televised address that the country looks to end the state of emergency, the highest level of coronavirus alert on Friday, April the 30th. The president announced on Tuesday. With infections on a sharp decline, the country is preparing to ease the strict lockdown restrictions imposed 3 months ago. Portugal will transition to a state of calamity, which still allows the government to impose some measures to reduce the risk of contagion. But the rules it can put in place are more limited and must be justified. The fourth and last phase of the easing of the lockdown is expected to start on Monday, the 3rd of May, with big outdoors and indoor events allowed under capacity restrictions. The Asian Development Bank has said that developing Asia's expected rebound this year could be stronger than previously thought, underpinned by expectations of a solid global recovery and progress on vaccines. The ADB forecast in its Asian Development Outlook report said that developing Asia will grow 7.3% in 2021, stronger than its previous estimate of 6.8% and following a 0.2% contraction last year. South Asia will record the fastest economic recovery this year, with the ADB predicting an expansion of 9.5% after a 6% contraction in 2020, buoyed by India's economic revival, even as the pandemic ravages across Asia. The ADB is still expecting India to bounce back with an 11% growth this year after an 8% slump in 2020. And as the COVID pandemic rages across Argentina, Argentines demand improved pay and access to vaccines. Hundreds of protesters gathered on the streets of the capital, Buenos Aires, carrying banners and chanting slogans against the International Monetary Fund. The Argentines marched to the capital. Argentina and the IMF are in negotiations to replace a failed program signed in 2018, for which the South American country owes the fund about $45 billion. Initially, the fund and the government expected a deal between April and May, but both have dropped any reference to that timeline. The Latin American country was in a deep crisis already before the pandemic hit. With a population of over 4 crore 55 lakhs, over 29 lakh cases of COVID have been registered here. Brazil's health regulator Anvisa has rejected importing the Russian-made Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccine. Anvisa's 5-strong board voted unanimously not to approve the Russian vaccine after technical staff highlighted inherent risks and serious defects, citing a lack of information guaranteeing its safety, quality and effectiveness. Meanwhile, the Russian Direct Investment Fund, which markets the vaccine abroad, has rejected Anvisa's comments, saying the shot's safety and efficacy had been assessed by regulators in 61 countries, which approved it for use. And moving on now from across the world to our next section, Web News Review. Joining us is our colleague Amritpal Singh. Amritpal, a very good morning to you. Give us a sense of what's making headlines on the World Wide Web.
Well, good morning, Rukma. All newspapers are mainly printing stories about the COVID situation. As you know, the situation is pretty grim, though measures are being taken to deal with the situation. The India.com begins with has printed COVID vaccine registration for all adults begins today on CoWIN app. Now, at a time when the virus situation is getting grim, the center last week had announced the third phase of vaccination, which will for all adults above the age of 18 years of age, which will kickstart from the April 28th. That means the registration begins today. The vaccination begins on May 1st. So people can go onto the CoWIN app, that's COWIN, on that platform, and they can register. The government has made it very clear that there will be no walk-in beneficiaries for the third phase. So, people should go to the COVID app above 18 years and start registering themselves. Once you register yourself, you'll be eligible for the vaccination, which begins on the 1st of May. Well, the other story that the Hindustan Times has printed, it says India's co-vaccine found to neutralize 607 variants of COVID-19, says Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci is the pandemic advisor to the US government and the US president. He said this, that co-vaccine, the vaccine developed by Bharat Biotech, an Indian homegrown COVID-19 vaccine, has found to neutralize 617 variants of the deadly virus. This is what the chief medical officer advisor of the White House said yesterday, Dr. Anthony Fauci. So he said, so despite the real difficulty that we are seeing in India, vaccine could be a very important antidote against this. As you know, that the US government has already given a clearance for sending raw materials for production of the Covishield vaccine in India, which was earlier stuck up. Now, after Prime Minister Modi and President Biden had a phone call, this approval came through. President Biden also made it clear that he's looking at sending directly the stockpile of Covishield or AstraZeneca vaccine lying with the United States, but that could follow. But right now, an approval has been given, and the homegrown vaccine, co-vaccine, Dr. Fauci says, is a really effective vaccine, which is found to neutralize 607 variants. The Indian Express says oxygen crisis more than supply, lack of tankers and plant locations are the key challenges. The oxygen crisis during the second COVID surge has been precipitated by the shortage of tankers and daunting logistics or transportation from distant locations. So, according to the Indian Express, which quotes key industry players, there is sufficient quantity of oxygen available in the country, but the problem is the logistics of it, which of course the government is working on. Official figures on April 24th showed that various industry produced 9,103 metric tons of medical oxygen, as against the previous capacity of 7,259 metric tons. So, there is enough oxygen, but the hiccups really are the transportations and the key locations of the plants, which are located at faraway places from where oxygen may be required in cities. The Indian Express has also published another story. It says Allahabad High Court steps in. Judicial officers will track the chaotic situation in Uttar Pradesh. Now, noting that the overall situation in major cities of Uttar Pradesh has become very chaotic, this is what the Allahabad High Court said due to the COVID surge. The High Court issued orders for judicial officers to be appointed as nodal officers in the 9 worst hit districts of the state, who will report every weekend about the prevailing situation. The court made a very strident remark saying that those in power must shun the attitude of my way or no way and welcome suggestions from all quarters. The court was hearing a PIL on the pandemic and issued these directions to the state government. So, Rukma, that's what's made it to the newspapers and web portals published today. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Amritpal, for joining us there and for those inputs. Let's move on now to our next segment, Sports Track. The first leg of the first semi-final of the UEFA Champions League between Real Madrid and Chelsea ended in a 1-1 draw. American Christian Pulisic scored for the Blues, who were playing away from home at the 14th minute. However, Chelsea could not hold to the lead for long as Karim Benzema scored a stunning acrobatic goal in the 29th minute to level the score. Even though Chelsea frequently raided the Madrid penalty box, they were unable to find the target. The second leg will be played at Stamford Bridge on the 6th of May. In the first leg of the second semi-final, Paris Saint-Germain will take on Manchester City tomorrow. Time now to take a look at the weather forecast. Well, the satellite picture clearly shows that under the influence. Well, let's take a look at temperatures recorded across cities in the country. Well, that was the weather report, and with that, we wrap up this edition of Breakfast News. We hope you enjoyed our show. We'll be back again tomorrow with a fresh edition. Meanwhile, don't forget, if you have to step out of the house, don't forget to wear a mask. It's your best protection and the best way to protect your near and dear ones and anybody whom you may come across as well. So wear a mask, maintain social distancing and hand hygiene as well. That's all from me for now. Namaskar.